Alright everyone, welcome back to another Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes video with Fat Phil, and today we're going to be talking about some mistakes I've made in 2024 already, just something I was noticing in my account, and hopefully by identifying these things for you, it helps you avoid them. That's the whole purpose of this channel. That's why I started. I cannot tell you how this channel started because I couldn't find stuff to help me, and that's why I started it. So if you guys have things that would help you, please let me know. More than happy to try and get the information that you need out here. So go ahead, guys, like and subscribe, comment. Let's give a shout out to our channel members for continuing their support, keeping their faith in me. Thank you guys again. I cannot express into words sometimes how thankful I am for every single one of you being a part of the Fat Phil family. Thank you again. Let's get into this video. Alright, so let's start off with, I'd say, the overarching mistake I made this year has to do with Grand Arena. I was going really hard in Grand Arena early this year, really paying attention to my skill rating. I was all high and mighty on myself, like, I'm in Kyber 1, I'm so cool. And I have gotten beaten back, not because I've lost more than I've won, but because of the skill squish. And it really bothered me for a while, and now I'm kind of like, it is what it is. You know, I've had some good rounds. I've had some bad rounds. Shout out Bro Beans from the Sigma Alliance Alpha for absolutely train wrecking me. But overall, you know, we're winning some, we're losing some. But I put so much faith into this, and it was causing me to feel a little bit of burnout. And I really had to take that step back and say, yeah, you know what? Like, I can't care this much about GAC. And it's been a huge blessing for me. Honestly, like, I'm not farming as many Datacrons. I don't have that pressure on myself. And it's been really freeing to be able to play Swago this way. So that is something I would say that was a mistake, was putting too much effort into GAC, especially when they're just going to knock you back anyway. Alright, so the next one that I want to talk about here is the Stap. So I took a gamble that you would really need this thing for the Naboo raid. I really thought that this would be basically required for the Naboo raid or needed for the next Galactic Legend, and so far it's something that is good in the Naboo raid, but it's not necessary. I'm scoring plenty of points without it, and I took a gamble. And in that time, I could have farmed Sana and Hondo, with really time to spare, to be honest. And I'm kicking myself for it, because normally I'm a much safer farmer than that, but I was like, nah, I'm gonna, I was at that point in the game where I could, afford to make a mistake like this and it not wreck me, but it still beats me up. I still get eaten up inside that, like, I could have had Honda and Sano, and I have so much Kyrotech right now that I potentially could have at least geared up Hondo and not been overly worried about the signal data, right? Like, I think I could have done that, especially because I wouldn't have been farming Sana and Hondo as long as I farmed the Stap, because the Stap is on a 16 energy node, right? And it's a single drop. So if it was a 16 energy node at an accelerated rate, it would be the equivalent of farming Sana and Hondo, right? But because they're 8 energy nodes and accelerated, it would be the equivalent of if Stap was on an 8 energy node and not accelerated. So I still would have saved myself time in the cantina farming these guys than I would have the Stap, so I would have had extra signal data to go into Honda and Naka to make my dash team better, help my guild in territory battles. Like, this would have been a nice help. So again, it's a mistake. I took a gamble, and I could have had these guys. Now, I can't say that this was a quote-unquote regret, because, again, I knew what I was doing. Like, I knew I was taking that risk. It's just something that it was a, you took a chance, and I lost, right? That was a mistake. I shouldn't, should have learned, right? So that is one that I did want to point out, because that is a big deal, right? I don't know that everybody fully understands sometimes the signal data that can cost you. And when you're doing something like I am, where you're chasing, Ahsoka, and you're looking at your Ezra and your Asajj, and it's like, oh, well, I don't really have the signal data to invest in them right now when I've got other things on the horizon. But you think these numbers would be a little bit higher had I gone the other direction. So, yeah. You guys can tell that, you'll see me kind of look at this and be like, oh, gosh. All right, the next one, the Nightsister Bundle. I did not buy this because I was like, at the time, we didn't really know that Morgan and the Great Mothers were on the horizon. It was rumored, but we didn't have any confirmation, and I wasn't going to purchase something that wouldn't really benefit me in a great way. And The problem was that the Nightsisters, I already have old Daka at Relics. I have a Saj at Relics. So I still would need to gear up Marin and equip the signal data for her. So I saw it as only giving me Talzin and Zombie, which at the $20 price point wasn't really that great of a steal, right? it wasn't enough for me. But then we got Death Trooper Peridia and Morgan and Night Trooper, and the Great Mothers are on the horizon, and they're like, hey, some of these characters will be good with that team. And I was like, darn it, man, like that was my chance. So there is a little bit of regret there. Now, I'll be perfectly honest. I do not know if I will be purchasing that if it does come back around. As I always say, that kind of takes peer pressure. But I also have to ask myself that question, would I even be able to relic Marin because of the Ahsoka stuff coming out? That do I have the resources to even relic Marin? And the reason I say it like that is, sure, having Talzin and Zombie at Relics would be nice, and even a little bit more on Asajj, like that would have helped for Ahsoka. But the overarching question there is, if I'm not going to relic Marin, having these ones at Relics is not that much more beneficial to the account. Because I can't use Datacrons, they still wouldn't be good in territory battles, I'd need to gear them up a lot more to get the special missions, so it's one of those things where that benefit just wasn't there for me, and even right now, I'm still kicking myself because I'm like, man, I would have that benefit, and then what it would do is say, hey, I'll just gear up Marin, like I'd kind of bite that bullet similar to Hondo, but, we'll have to wait and see. I don't know if this is, I would say the mistake was thinking that I wouldn't need the rest of these characters at some point. That's kind of the mistake, was not seeing through the Lightspeed bundle, like I kind of did with the Jedi Allies bundle, where they weren't selling it if it wasn't going to be important. That's what I should have saw at the Nightsister Bundle. That's a better way to say all that garbage that I said earlier. So, should have seen through this, that this faction is going to be getting more and more important and get some added benefits that otherwise were missing. If I can click over, keep going. Alright, the next one is some potential wasted Omicrons. So let's start with Queen Amidala. I got this girl and I put 3 Omicrons on her. Actually, Bane was first, so I put all the Omicrons on Bane right away. Because I was like, oh yeah, this one is important because I'm going to use him with Sith Eternal, and, I need that. And then I was looking at this one and I'm like, oh man, increase cooldowns by 2 instead, remove turn meter, Sith allies gain turn meter, reduce defense and tenacity, like, oh yeah, all of that sounds great. And then you quickly realize that, like, this ability's awesome, but in GAC, half the time, the other team is mostly dead after I use this once. You know what I mean? Like, after I use this once, and after I use this once, they're mostly dead. So, like, this doesn't always help as much as you would think, right? And this one, it is nice to gain 5 additional Siphon, but I never use this guy with Sith Eternal. I shouldn't say never. I rarely ever use this dude with Sith Eternal in Grand... I don't think I've ever done it in Grand Arena. So it doesn't, it's not offering enough benefit for me, right? It's one I would definitely wish I could go back in time and probably back away from. Again, 5 extra Siphon is great. I love the 5 extra Siphon, but against a lot of the teams that you use Bane against, I don't know that it's completely necessary, like the rule of 2. So if he only had 1 Omicron for me, that would open up a lot more options. Similarly with Queen Amidala, I went full bore crazy with her. Looking back, part of me says I should have just done the unique and left it there. I don't know. I think this team will be very good for a time to come, but I'm very curious if the performance is more so tied to the Omicron, or not the Omicron, the Datacron, rather than Omicrons. I could be very wrong there, but it's very hard to judge some of the, even with Bane, it was the same thing, that these characters kind of came out and had their Omicrons already, or had Omicrons and then a Datacron, so they compound. So it's very difficult to see the true benefit of them inside of their intended game mode until those Datacrons kind of go away and you get a fresher look at what they can do. So I kind of wish that I maybe would have just done the unique and held off here and potentially saved those Omicrons for new things or even some territory war ones to help my guild. And you can kind of see with Bo-Katan here that I didn't do this Omicron. With Jar Jar, I didn't do this one because I'm short on them as it is. Like, I'd be out of Omicrons if I equipped those 2. And I'm trying to save up because I know Ahsoka's team will have Omicrons. And I want to be able to take advantage of those if I need it. And Omicrons are something that take a free-to-play a lot longer to obtain, so potentially wasting them is a big problem. So those are ones you think between Bane and Queen Amidala, had I had an extra, 2 to 4 Omicrons in my back pocket, that can be really nice. That opens up some additional options for me. All right, and then finally, I still hate myself for, putting extra relics on Sith Assassin. Even though it's only Relic 7, I still hate myself for this. It's one that still really kind of kicks me because I still fall enough in Fleet Arena as it is. Like, today I started at 16th, which, again, not the end of the world, but it did kind of suck a little bit that you're like, I've got this Relic 7, and it really doesn't matter. And even just to, further prove, that, this guy here with Hassan Ewok, he's sitting in 14th position with a Relic 9 Sith Assassin. The extra relics on Sith Assassin are great for offense, but defensively, you've got people climbing on it. And so it's kind of one of these areas where I'm like, I wish I just would have kept it at Relic 5. I'm getting hit as it is. The guys with Relic 9s are getting hit as it is. I may as well just rely on the off-meta counters or the, this variant to climb rather than trying to increase relic levels. Because that Relic 7, where that one's kind of killing me right now, is in my characters. If you look at my Galactic Republic, now that Ahsoka has come out, and again, hindsight's 2020, but we've got a Relic 9 Commander Tano, Relic 9 Snips, Relic 8 Padme Amidala, and a Relic 8 General Kenobi. And my Jedi Master Kenobi is sitting at Relic 7. So I could Relic 8 Kenobi. I mean, I could do it right now. I'm not going to, because I need that signal data for Ahsoka. But having that extra signal data from Sith Assassin, instead of her being, you think that would be 60 extra signal data for blue signal data. It'd be extra green and white signal data. I could stomach getting Kenobi to Relic 8 because I'd have some extra stored up. And that would give me more waves and combat missions. That would give me the ability to platoon this guy. It just would make my account better. Whereas instead, I put it on a character who I don't really, outside of, fleets, I don't get any use out of her. And it sucks because, and I mean, I didn't even Relic 8 or Relic 9 her, and I regret it. But it's one of those things, too, where I said, with this one, what kind of is going to bother me is once the Leviathan's no longer the meta, and we get the next capital ship or whatever's going to counter this thing next, my fear is that the relics on Sith Assassin won't matter anymore. Because you think they help in some of the counters, but more often than not, the relics on Sith Assassin don't matter in the counter, right? Like the variant that I'm using in Fleet Arena right now, it doesn't matter what, relics Sith Assassin is at, right? It doesn't matter what relic their Sith Assassin is at, this team wins. The profundity, is the battle easier when Sith Assassin is 5 versus 9? Absolutely. But is it extremely detrimental? No. The Empire counter, the Negotiator counter, the Relic 9 gives her a little bit more health, but it doesn't necessarily change what you do, right? Does it add a little bit of complexity? Sure. Enough that I think it's worth it? No. So, that's the end of the video, guys. Let me know your thoughts about those mistakes. Are there things that you've done this year that you regret? Hopefully this helps you kind of identify those areas of, hey, Phil says this is a mistake, maybe I should hold back. Like, I will tell you right now, and I don't know if he's listening, so shout out to Mara Jade. But he, as a 5-star executor, has been crushing people in Fleet Arena with it for a while now, and he's on his way to get Leviathan, right? You can see he's on his way to get Leviathan with Relic 9s. I think he has everything he needs. He's probably just waiting for the event. But the thing I want to hopefully get into, hopefully encourage him, leave your Sith Assassin at 5. Because taking her up isn't going to change who hits you, because they're still going to climb on you, right? It doesn't change that. It just changes your offense. And sure, that can be nice, but when all those other counters exist, like he's showing with his Executor, what does it matter, right? Your offense, the only thing that matters for offense is can you beat it? Doesn't matter what you use. So that's just, again, one man's humble opinion. I get that for some of you, you're like, I would get last place in my fleet shard if I didn't have a Relic 9 Sith Assassin. Okay, that's fine and dandy and everything. But maybe you take a look at your fleet shard and say, do you really need it? So, that's my thoughts. Again, I love you all so much. May the Force be with you, and I'll see you in the next one. Ciao. Cheers, my friends.